Before we jump in today's episode, here are 3 reasons you do not want to miss this conversation with entrepreneur Nikita Khandheria. At 23 years old, in the last 3 years, she sold her breadstick business for millions of dollars. She's built a luxury hospitality company with 2 locations by focusing on creating unforgettable experiences. Her philosophy isn't about chasing success, it's about chasing excellence and becoming a little bit better every single day. I cannot wait for you to hear her story. Let's jump in. You are 23 years old and you've already built an incredible career. Has success changed you, or has it mostly changed how other people see you?
Definitely just the way that other people see me. I think
Mm-hmm.
that it was funny because I think that I have different measures of success. I think
Mm-hmm.
because, and we talked about this on the last one, I'm obsessed with the gamification of it, right? So for me, it's not like, oh, I opened a second location. Wow, I feel so successful. It's more so, I just hired someone new. They did their first event on their own. This feels like more of a success metric to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that as I see conventional success happen, for example, when I opened my new location in the marina a couple months ago, there were a lot of people that didn't want to play ball with me. And I don't know how much I've talked about this, but like one of the cities that we were operating in, because of my age, they always saw me as temporary, right? So they were like, "Oh, are you still open?" And I was like, "What type of a question is that to ask someone that has a business? You don't ask someone, are you still employed, right? Like when you meet someone at dinner."
Such an odd thing.
Right. And so I think that they always just saw me as temporary because I was so much younger. And so I think that when I got my second location, I think everyone was like, oh, this isn't just daddy buying her some gifts and toys. And this is like, she's here to stay. And so I think there were a lot of people that didn't want to come around to the idea of taking me seriously. Like some parts of, the city and a couple of locations that I was working and things like that. So I definitely think it affected the way that other people see me a hell of a lot more than it affected the way that I see me.
Right. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. People thinking that I know you and I know how you are and I know your work ethic. But for people that don't know you and see that you're 23 years old, that you've had all this extraordinary success, they assume that, your mom and dad bought you these businesses, and that's not true. So what do you do when people make these assumptions about you and your life and your family that are so inaccurate? Like how do you handle that?
So I think that I handle it by being really, really grateful for people that actually ask me the question and give me a platform to be able to answer it. Because I think that if I were to just go on my phone every time someone said, go cry home to mommy or something like that, I feel like that would be the entirety of my personality. So I
Right.
really appreciate you asking it because I think a lot of people feel like it's polite not to, and so they don't. Um, when I was younger, like when I first started when I was 17, I think it bugged me so much. And there was definitely an idea of I want to be my own person and I really don't want to be my parents' daughter constantly. But I think that I've since then fulfilled a lot of that self-love that I think it takes to be okay with it, right? So if it makes you feel better to think that my dad bought it for me, I'm okay with that. I don't mind, right? Like I know what it is. The bank that I need to take a loan from ever, if I do, touch wood, knows where it came from. And people that are auditing my books, they can see where the investor reports are and they can see where the money came in. So the only people who I care about knowing where I got funding from know about it. And I think that at the end of the day, one of the biggest things I've worked on from the time that I started to now is not necessarily getting thicker skin because everyone is like, to be a business owner, you need to have thicker skin. I think what I've really worked on is self-love. And I'm okay
Mhm.
with, I don't need other people to like me. I'm okay being who I am, and I'm very okay with the success that I have for myself. Right. So I think that initially it bugged me so much. And anytime anyone said anything, I would correct them. But now I'm like, if that's the story you want to run with, if there's a reason to correct you, I'll correct you. If we're trying to negotiate a deal, if I have a reason to make you believe that I am something that I need to, of course, I'll set the record straight. But otherwise, it's okay. People
I,
will think
I,
what people think.
you it's it's not your business what other people think of you. That's one thing I've learned. And then number two, I think, and I'm going to include myself in this, the more successful I got, the more comfortable in my skin I got. I really don't care what someone thinks because I know the truth. And I think that's where you're at now. Like, let's just say that your family did buy you a business or whatever. Well, it doesn't mean it's going to last or stay open. So you had to be really good at what you do and be, and, hardworking and do all the amazing things you do. And they can think what they want. But I think because you've had these successes that are clearly on your own without anyone, that you feel good about yourself. So it doesn't bother you anymore. So that's good.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, I think that there was a part of me that if you had said that to me 2 years ago, I would have been like, no, Christina, it's not the same as if my parents had bought it for me because here is my investor report and this is who paid it. I went and I
Mm-hmm.
raised money just like everyone else. And I would have gone out of my way to course correct that and say, my parents paid for my education, which is fantastic. And touch wood, I know a lot of people aren't lucky enough to do that. But beyond that, I have never taken a single dollar from them, right? But I don't feel the need to course correct that anymore. And I don't think it's a
What
success.
made that change? Like, when did that change for you?
I don't think it was success. I think it was feeling like I was excellent at what I did. I think ever since I was a kid,
Isn't that the same thing though?
no, I
Feeling
don't think it.
so you don't think that your success and what you've done are the same?
No, I think success and excellence are very different. I think there's this really interesting analogy. My favorite movie of all time is Three Idiots. And I think the reason that I loved it so much was as a young kid, I was born math dyslexic, right? And my parents sent me to Kumon, they sent me to Abacus, they sent me to every single thing that they could. And by the time I was 12, I was competing in Chinese Math Olympics. What that meant was that what it taught me, I guess, is that if you're willing to work hard, anything that you want to achieve is possible, right? Because when I started, nobody would have thought that I would represent India in my school in Math Olympics, right? Math dyslexic. But because I put in the hours and I worked so hard, I was able to
Mm-hmm.
make it happen. So I grew up with the idea that you can make anything happen. And which is a very daunting idea as a kid, right? If you're like, the world is my oyster and I can do anything, it's kind of scary to approach the world because then every decision feels monumental. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I watched this movie, it was really interesting because he's just this insanely amazing guy who lives his life just based on the curiosity of the thing he loves. And he says this really powerful thing where he's like, if you scream enough times, even a lion will jump on a chair, right? And you're never going to say that it's a brilliant lion. You're never going to say the lion is fabulous. You're going to say that it's well trained. And why do we want, as human beings, to focus on just being well trained? Why do we want to just be successful and focus on promoting ourselves and telling people stories about ourselves when we could spend that time instead becoming excellent at whatever we want to be excellent at?
I love that. That is really, I hadn't thought of it from that perspective, and I think that's super interesting. So you strive for excellence, which inevitably becomes success, than just being successful. That's not
Yeah.
your goal. Okay.
Yes, right. And that's why, so if you look back for the last 2.5 years, I didn't do any press. I didn't do any media. We started social media only 2, 3 weeks ago because all I wanted to do was just be so, so excellent at what I did. And I think that there is a level of pride that comes with that. And I think that's what changed it for me, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
that's when I stopped feeling like I need to justify everything. And so I think that I'm much prouder of who I am today, and I'm much happier putting myself out there, right? If you had asked me to come on your podcast, even though we're friends 2 years ago, I wouldn't have done it because I would have been so worried about what are people going to think about me having a $6 million company at the age of 21, or, I did an exit. What are people going to think of that? I would have been so worried about that it would have held me from doing it. But I think feeling like I just got to the point of excellence at something that I love, it just gives me this sense of pride that makes me want to,
And confidence, right?
yeah, confidence. And I think it's just content. Like that's how I would describe it. I'm just so happy. I wiggle my toe. My boyfriend will look over sometimes and he'll be like, Nikita, your toes are wiggling. And I'll be like, I know. I will be laying in bed like a preschooler with my outfit chosen on the side of my bedside, and I will be wiggling my toes like I cannot wait to go to work tomorrow because I am so good at what I do that I know it's going to be a good day. And I can't wait to put that out in the world again. That sounds so silly. But it's
No,
just
it doesn't. I love that. I love that enthusiasm and that passion because I've told you and I've talked about this. I've said this to my children. Like, I want you to figure out what you love doing so much that you do it for free and then figure out how to get paid. Because you never could have imagined doing what you do, how much time, effort, money it was going to take. And if you weren't loving every minute of it, I can promise you, you wouldn't be the success that you are. It's not possible because you'd start resenting it. It's like, oh gosh, I have to keep doing this. It's exhausting, don't you think?
100%. And I think people can tell. I mean, if a bride comes all happy and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting married, and you're like, okay, let's talk three-course meals, versus if you're up here and you're like, oh my gosh, congratulations, tell me and I think that the fact that it's so authentic has been one of the reasons that now that I've started to do press, there's a lot of magazines that are like, oh my gosh, we've never felt this energy before. This is so nice. And I think that's why and people have asked me, they're like, why do you think Dreamforce is asking you to get involved? You don't have the resume. Or the first wedding I ever did, I've never planned a wedding. She gave me $300,000 and walked away. And I think it's just that idea of curiosity and wanting to be the best at anything that we do. And I think that only comes if you love it. And you don't want to be the best at something you don't love. You only want to be the best at something you love.
Truly. You have traveled to more than 60 countries studying hotels and hospitality. What's one lesson that you've learned from another culture or an industry that you've brought to area?
I think it's a combination. I absolutely love how prepared you are for these. That
Hmm.
was very impressive. But I think it's the combination. I think European style is unmatched. I think Indian hospitality unmatched. Asian hospitality overall. If you go stay at a hotel in Asia and then you come back to the US, no offense to even like the best hotels here, but the level of service, it's not the same. It's not even close to being the same. And I of course understand that there's barriers, right?
Right.
Like labor and all of these other elements are obviously very differently costed out here, but it's really interesting to see what happens when you combine it. So I definitely think that I brought a lot of the hospitality where we never say no, we only say yes, we only use positive, we try and make whatever we can have happen. Like that's a very Asian mentality, in my opinion.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
you look at our spaces, they're very minimalistic, but they have a very European look to them. So that's definitely something we've taken from there. And from the US, I think we've just taken our ability to market, our ability to not be afraid of competition, and our ability to continue to reinvent ourselves to fit the demand.
You have said that experiences have become the new luxury. Where do you see luxury hospitality heading in the next 5 years?
I think luxury hospitality is turning into a specialized art. I think over the last 5, 6 years, people have started to move away from the idea of I'm so organized, I can plan it, to understanding that there are benefits to hiring someone, right? It's similar to when the legal system sort of mainstreamed itself, right? People initially were very sure that they could defend themselves, right? You know your story the best, you know the law is, something that you can study and then you feel like you can do it. And I think a lot of people, my family, friends included, have always said, oh, I'm so organized, I'm so creative, I'm so stylish, I can plan this event. And I think what transforms an event to an experience is the difference in the specialization that goes into it, right? So if I'm planning, actually, I have a really good example. I have a client that we have on an annual retainer, and they do 4 birthdays with us, the two of them, their two kids. We do their anniversary and annual trips, right? And they gave us a budget of, let's say, 1.5 million to do all of this. And they had an additional trip that was super, super last minute that they wanted to plan. And so they arranged it, and they didn't necessarily feel like they wanted to bring me in, brief me on it, everything. And his wife is a pretty well put together lady. So she's like, I'll put it together. She calls me 2 days before the event and she says, Nikita, I have the yacht, but the yacht's not going to let me bring on music. I need to bring on music. And then I realize that I don't have any entertainment. Do I need entertainment? I also have all this fried food. Is it going to be okay? And there was just so many elements that I was like, yeah, this will be an event, but this is not going to be an experience. This is not going to
Mm.
make you and everyone else leave this wondering when do you get to take time off next because life is so busy to be able to experience this again. And so I flew in a recording artist from Israel that was insane. She got on the yacht, she impressed everybody. I got them fruit platters and lighter food because you don't want to be doing fried food on a boat. We did their little emergency kits, we did candles in the bathrooms. We took care of everything and we were able to not just think of it, but we were able to execute it and then think about the elements around it, right? So when you're doing a yacht, you can't just think yacht. You have to think that I need seasickness medication. I need to make sure that everybody has a dress code because I don't want anyone showing up in heels feeling like they're going to look better for photos and then fall over. I want to have some slippers for the people that don't realize or listen to my dress code, right? So there's so many elements that need to go into it to make it a full experience that you're waiting to come back to, right? And I think that is the reason that hospitality and experiences are going to take up a larger percentage of discretionary spending over the next 5 years. Because I think once people get a feel of it and more companies are offering it to their guests, people are going to want it, right? And
I
that's
think I really like this analogy you've given between an event and experience. I think that is like those two are key words for you moving forward with your social media and everything else because it really differentiates who and what you are and what your company does. We're not just doing events. Everyone can do an event, but we're giving you an experience and a memory. And that is so special. And I think that's where people are happy to pay that extra bit to have that happen. And then they notice the difference of, they're used to how you do your experiences and then they go do it. They think that they can, because you make it look so easy that they're like, oh, well, I can do that. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I can't. Like this is
Exactly. Right. And I think that's where it comes in, right? I think that a majority of our clients, I had a client yesterday, I kid you not. She texted me. She had attended a corporate event we did. I never spoken to her. She got our number from the admin assistant who helped plan the corporate event. And I think that was actually not a very high budget event. It was, and so coming back to budget, I think that there's a world where you can make experiences happen at any price point, right? So I don't think it's just a high budget luxury experience.
Mhm.
That's definitely where we found our footing because that's where our venues are placed, right? When you're on the waterfront of Sausalito, it's really hard to do a small budget, but a lot of events we plan outside of that. We do, so like I did a nonprofit event, which is the one she came to actually. And we had ice cream cups, like takeaway cups, and we put the CEO's face on them. And then the spoons had like a little quote from him. So it was kind of like a
So
play on
cute.
fortune cookie. It was fun. It was memorable and
Yeah,
it was entertaining.
cute.
And so she texted me and she said, hey, I am planning to get married on, sorry, I'm just pulling March 22nd. She's planning to get married on March 22nd. Are either of your locations open? And I said, yeah, Sausalito's open. She said, okay, send me the invoice. I sent her an invoice for $50,000. And I kid you not, this lady paid it in 3 minutes. 3 minutes from the time that I sent her the invoice, she transferred the money. The reason is because when you come to one event that we do, it is really hard to go elsewhere because it's an experience. And we think about the little things.
Well, and they know how they felt during this experience. It's a feeling that they get. It's not just, they're like, wow. And they also get that, they see the feeling that everyone else is getting. You're 23 years old, and yet you've already sat on multiple startup boards. What is the best advice that you give other entrepreneurs? And is there any advice that you wish that you should have taken for yourself?
Definitely the whole ego thing. There is absolutely no place for ego at the table, at the business table, at the home table. It is just something that you have to say bye to. There's a huge difference between ego and pride. And I think that a lot of people that are high functioning have a very easy time rationalizing the similarities between the two. And I was definitely guilty of it, where I'd be like, well, I have to be proud of myself. And I would often confuse ego for pride. But now, having felt pride, I know that there are very, very different things. And you definitely want to be proud of the work that you're putting out because it's really hard to spend your whole life working on something if you don't have that sense of pride. But I
Hmm.
don't think that there is any room for ego because you need to continue to pivot. The biggest thing that COVID taught us, the biggest thing that the current economy is teaching us is that it is not easy to be a business owner. It is not easy to put yourself out there. There is so much oversaturation, and the only way to succeed is to continue to chase excellence. And part of chasing excellence is putting your ego on the side and realizing that you are not excellent. And excellent will forever be a moving target because it continues to pivot as demand pivots.
Right.
So you just got to keep getting better and you got to keep pushing yourself towards it. Keep educating yourself, keep going to talks, keep experimenting, keep saying yes, right? Keep growing
And being open.
and getting better and
Right.
being better.
I know you're a spreadsheet girl. It's one of your happy places. If you actually, I know this sounds crazy, took a day off, what does that look like? And what do you enjoy doing when you're not spreadsheeting?
I think the place that I feel the happiest, and I've realized over time, is what I like to do with my time off, is I like to gaslight my sister to fly to Texas because she lives in Florida. I try and say, oh, mom really needs us to go visit. She wants to get gardening done or something. And then I come home and I come to Dallas and I visit my family and it is the best R&R that anyone can ask for. And right now, actually, I'm in Dallas and my grandma's here too. And just hanging out with them. I have zero productivity comparatively to when I'm in California, but it's just nice. Like we'll wake up and we'll all go to the office together, end up not getting a lot of work done because my mom is very social and she wants to talk about everything. And she's very good with people. So anytime I don't tell her something, she can tell. And so it just ends up being a lot of conversation. And then we go play pickleball. And then we all have dinner together. And mom and I are watching Grey's Anatomy. Otherwise, we watch Scandal. It seems
Oh,
like
isn't Scandal so good?
Shonda Rhimes has taken over my life.
I
Everything I
know.
watch is
It's
Shonda
crack. It's
Rhimes.
crack. It is
Yeah.
crack.
And that's what I want. That
That's
reaction is what
You
I
want to be
want.
the Shonda
Because
Rhimes of experiences. That is
I
what
want
you
to be the Shonda Rhimes, the Roger Federer, like, and
Yeah,
that's what I'm chasing. And so when everyone's like, "Why don't you take more time off?" I don't want to because my dream life has me reaching that point where I am the Roger Federer, where I am the Michael Jordan, where I am in that league that I'm just so proud of what I'm building.
I
That's why
like
I say
that.
hi to hot. Do you know 2 weeks ago I said yes to hot air balloon a woman to our terrace for her grand entrance? And then I spent like 6 weeks figuring out how to get the permits, the aerodynamics, and I was just there. And I don't think the permit guys have ever had this type of encounter. And I was like, hey, so I want a hot air balloon. And they're like, okay, here's the forms. And I was like, but I want to have it land in our deck. And they were like, oh, what are you going to put in it? I said, my bride. Crazy experience, but that's what makes you better, right? The more things like this you say yes to, the more you push your brain to get creative on how to make it happen.
Amazing. You're fluent in 5 languages, and you've shared that becoming ambidextrous came out of necessity. Is there something you've learned growing up that still influences the way you lead your company today?
Everything is possible. It might be naive to believe, but if someone who is math dyslexic in the matter of 6 years can compete in math Olympics, it is a sign that you just got to put in the hours. And I think that's true about everything. I'm so language impaired, but when put in the situation where I was forced to put in the hours, I did. When I was forced to put in the hours for writing with both hands, because they don't like you to write with your left hand in India, I did, right? And so I genuinely wholeheartedly believe that anything is possible. There is not a thing you could, if you told me, Nikita, you want to hear something impossible, you join the WNBA. I believe that if I went to a country, I know there's a lot of countries that do this, that break your knees so that you can grow a couple of inches. I believe if I go and I break my legs enough time, put on, 5, 6 inches, I can come back and I can hire the best damn coach that there is, and I can outwork anybody. And I will be in WNBA. No offense to people that are there. I don't I believe it,
You're
but I
just
don't
saying
know.
this as a
Yes,
story. I
exactly.
know what you're saying.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't
you're
want people
giving
to
an
be like,
example. You're
you're
like, I'm not
5'2".
going, yeah, you're 5'2" and you don't know how to play basketball. No, it's not that. But you're just saying, if you decide in your brain that you're going to do something, you are willing to put the time and the effort into it, it's going to happen. And I think that's, but see, I think because you've had these experiences of excellence, you have this confidence now that you know that if you decide you're doing it, it's done. It's already done. And I also think you're manifesting because because you know you're manifesting what you want it to be. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think manifestation is just cause and effect, right? You tell yourself when you take the time to figure out where you're going, you can devote energy to it. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
manifestation is, in my opinion. Manifestation is nothing voodoo. Manifestation is entirely real. It is you coming up with a plan as to where you want to be and then making decisions to get there. And that's how I live my
That's
life,
right.
right? At the start of the year, I come up with so I have a story as to where I want to be 50 years from now. It's in my little journal, and every year I make small little tweaks to it, and then that's my compass. Anytime that I'm faced with a decision that I don't know what to do, I just think, okay, in 50 years, this is who I want to be, this is the life that I want to live. Which decision will get me closer to it? And so I think manifestation is just another word for having a compass.
You have said that one of Aria's philosophies is we never say no to a client. What is the craziest client request that you've ever gotten, and were you actually able to pull it off?
Oh my God, I don't even know. I had a group of C-suite execs that came in and they wanted to do a fire breathing class. Well, actually, I should correct myself. They wanted to do something fun. I accidentally said, "What about fire breathing?" That was
Oh yeah,
crazy.
because that's like a normal thing to everyone wants to go
I
through.
know. It was my bad. I suggested it that they loved it. So that was crazy. I turned the entire floor to water for one of my clients because she believed that there's stuff that you can put in the water to purify yourself. And so we created our entire lounge space where our bar is in Sausalito. We turned the whole thing to water and we had like lily pads and she just walked into it to purify herself before coming down to the ceremony. The fire breathing was created. The hot air balloon, I mean, that's a little ridiculous.
That's a doozy because I know that location and I know that deck. I'm like, did it fit?
It did. It was very, very crazy. I had a client that we taught how to, have you seen the sparkles that you can drop and then change the outfit? Like the magicians do that. So we
Mm-hmm.
hired a magician to show her how to do that. And she came in like super underdressed in like sweats and everything. She had her makeup done already and her hair, but then she threw these sparkles and then she was in her gown. And it was just iconic. That was
That's so cool.
it was really hard. That was like a long experience. That I'm glad we started that a year and a half out. That was an 18-month project.
Wow.
I'm trying to think. I mean, we've done a lot of crazy things. Um, we helped
But you have
create,
talked about this before that you've had clients come in and want to paint the walls and you're like, that's fine, just paint them back.
but I don't even think that's crazy anymore.
Like that to you is
Fire
like a
breathing is
normal.
like
That's just like Monday, right? That's just like,
yeah,
oh,
no.
that's a Monday
We actually
request.
offer that as a package now. So any company that comes in for a corporate event, especially in our Marina location where we do a lot more, like we're doing Dreamforce, we're doing a lot of events there. We now have it as like a branding package. So it's not like out of the blue. A lot of companies will come in. We have state-of-the-art projection that can change. You saw it during our launch, right? That can
Right.
change the space to any color you want. But if you want to go for the branding package, we will actually paint all the walls. We'll get your logo everywhere. So we have done like to me, that's not crazy anymore. That's just part of the
Isn't
branding.
that funny how your levels of crazy change? Like for you, I mean, for any other event people, they would be like, oh, hell no, you're not painting the walls. And then to you, that's an
Yeah,
easy request.
it's an upsell. No, and that's exactly what I mean, right? Like looking back at where I was 2 years ago, I feel like I've made such strides in my journey towards excellence here, right? To think that that was when you and I chatted, that was my crazy story when we first met. And I was like, you won't believe that I did this. But since then, there's a next thing and there's a next thing that continues to push me. And my comfort level and my competence level just continues to grow in my specialty. And like to me, that's the biggest form of success. Like right now, when you and I are talking, I'm feeling like, wow, I have made myself successful comparatively to before, right?
Right.
But that's again, it's just I've become better at what I do, and that's how I measure.
You got a company in under, about a year. You sold it for significantly more than what you paid for it. What made you decide? Like, how did you know that that was the appropriate time to sell it or keep it for another 5 to 10 years and maybe it would be worth significantly more?
I think it comes down to two things, right? I think it comes down to my compass. I knew where I wanted to be in, like I said, 50 years, and having a manufacturing plant. So when I bought the company, it was a mom and pop shop that was losing $60,000 a month. It was five guys working in a factory. It was a very small operation. When we went out and we got a lot of these contracts, as and when we increased, we had to get different forms of insurance, and majority of my day got absorbed in, instead of in business development, I was very much in the weeds coming up with lot numbers and building out systems and getting robotic mechanisms that can automate the process, and how do I ensure that we got to the point where we outgrew the factory that we had, which is crazy because it's a 7,000 square foot factory, and anyone that manufactures knows that that's a lot. But when we were delivering like 6 million units, we were at capacity, and it wasn't something, or when we were supposed to deliver 6 million units, it was just not something that I feasibly could do without devoting a lot of time to logistics, which wasn't something that I was ever passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
I got a business broker involved, and she was fabulous. Terry Kraft over at Berkshire Hathaway, very, very talented. She was able to craft a story around it. And she said, let's just see. And she never pushed me, she never pressured me. And she just said, let's put it out there. Let's see what it's worth to the world. And if you find a number that works for you, that's good. So for me, I was no longer enjoying it enough to want to be the best at it. I didn't want to be the best manufacturer. I wish I would have wanted to, because the company was just doing so, so well that everyone thought I was crazy to sell it. My dad was like, Nikita, I will take it from you and run it on your behalf so you don't have to. And I was like, I just don't want to do anything that I'm half-assing, pardon my French.
Right, right, yeah.
If I'm doing something, I only live once. If I'm going to give my time to something, I just need to be 100% deep in
You
it.
just didn't have the passion for it anymore. So it was
Exactly.
more, it wasn't
Exactly.
costing, like you just wanted it to, it got as far as you wanted and you wanted to move on to do something else. I know everyone sees the success, but what's something about building area that people don't see? And what's been the hardest part behind the scenes?
Coming back to the thick skin versus thin skin, I
Mm-hmm.
have the thinnest skin, and I don't think that people understand it. Like, people will be so, so, so ruthless with me because I think they think that somebody else is seeing it, or they just don't care because they're like, oh, you have so much that, if I were to take a little bit of happiness from you, it doesn't hurt. I don't know what the mentality is, but people can be really, really mean. And I think one of the things that I definitely don't want to lose, because I think it helps get me further, is I think my thin skin, when it comes to failure or not doing as well as I want to, is another thing that motivates me, right? Like, I don't want to feel like I underdelivered ever. So I don't want to get rid of my thin skin because, I mean,
I don't think it's thin skin. I think you should rename that. I think we should call it that you're sensitive.
I no, I prefer thin skin to
Oh, you
sensitive.
think so? Well, sensitive, but I don't mean it in a way that you're sensitive. I mean, you're sensitive. I don't know. That's a hard one.
I care what people think about me. At the end of the day,
As you get older, you will care less.
I know, but today I'm still a girl in my 20s, and
Right.
at the core of it, I care. When a chef that my client hired 3 weeks ago was shouting at me and being like, go cry to mom. I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. You're gonna wish you're dead. It affects me. I don't.
Well, how could it not? My gosh, that's like
But
really
I think
aggressive.
that people don't assume that it does, because obviously out front, I have to put out a very strong front because I have a lot of employees that are looking at me to lead them, right? So when those messages are coming and my employees are in the group chat, I can't say, oh, that hurts my feelings. I have to say, please talk to my team with respect. If you continue down this line, I'm going to have to get my clients' lawyers involved. I'm asking you for something based on what my clients are asking me for. I'm just doing my job, right? And so I think that I have to take a very professional and cold stance because there are people
Hmm.
looking at me to lead them, right? And so I think that because I'm having to lead my team all the time, I don't have the ability to be that girl in my 20s block. And so people don't see it. You obviously have a way of bringing out different sides of people, so you always see it, but others don't.
Hmm.
And so I think The hardest thing has been everyone not thinking of me as a human being and thinking of me as a company, and then bringing out these really ugly sides of themselves to me and not thinking it affects me.
Hmm. Okay, we are going to do some rapid fire. Are you ready?
Yes.
Coffee or tea?
Matcha.
Okay. One word your team would use to describe you at 7 a.m.
Driven.
The client request you'll never say yes to again.
Hot air balloon. That was a one and done.
Yeah, that's it?
Mhm.
Is that a never?
No, there's no nevers in life. You know that.
Right. It's just not in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and it's already been there, done that.
Right. Okay. Sausalito or the marina?
That's not fair. That's asking me to choose between my children.
Children.
I know. It's like asking
Both. No, it's and. That is
all
the
of the
answer.
above.
All of the above. It's Sausalito and the marina.
Option C.
Yes. What is the best meal you've had anywhere in the world?
This is so bad. My mom's salmon.
Oh, I love that. What is one country that completely surprised you?
Thailand.
Oh,
I had
interesting.
been there a lot as a visitor. Sorry, quick fire. Continue.
No, keep going.
I said I was
Thailand,
gonna
why?
been there a lot as a visitor, but I had recently gone there to plan an event, and the infrastructure and the organizational capabilities of a lot of the spaces are way, way, way more advanced than the touristy space that they send you to. So it was very surprising because when you go as a tourist, they want you to feel a very authentic old Thailand feel, and so
Hmm.
they show you a very, I don't even say rural, but a very backward style society, right? Where you have these street markets and you see so many elements of things not being as functional. But when you go and you try and throw an event there, they have more infrastructure capability and AV like capability than a lot of places in the States.
Interesting. That would surprise me. What is one app that you cannot live without?
Claude.
Right?
Or
I
email.
agree. Yes. What's one word your team would use to describe you just overall besides driven?
So much energy.
The
Positive or
Energizer Bunny.
negative.
Yes. Spreadsheet or vision board? Which one are you planning your next big idea with?
Spreadsheet.
I know she's my spreadsheet girl. Pickleball or platform tennis?
Pickleball.
Yep. Dream event you haven't booked yet. What would it be?
Oh, this is interesting. Um, this is gonna sound a little bit odd, but I would love to do, I don't know if you know who Shelby Sapp is. My sister lives in Miami, so I've seen some of her stuff pop up, and she's doing the largest female conference, and it's all about
Hmm.
educating and uplifting women. And I think, given my background, obviously with the clinics and everything that I
Hmm.
did for economic independence, I think it'd be a really interesting cross section with her brand and her following to be able to produce a conference like that for her one day.
Oh, that's neat. What's one business book that every young entrepreneur should read?
Great to good.
Gray Ticket?
Great to good. No, good to
Great.
great. Sorry, good to
Good
great.
to, good to great?
Mhm.
If area didn't exist, what do you think you'd be doing?
Oh, I think that I would be trying to go into medicine. I think I like very competitive fields.
Hmm. What's one place in the world you still can't wait to visit?
That's a good one. I feel like I've been most places. That sounds so bad. Maybe Wyoming. I've never been to Wyoming.
Interesting. Success means what to you?
Being the best at anything and everything you do.
Where's your happy place?
At home with my parents.
Aw, that's nice. What would people be surprised to know about you?
That I have thin skin.
Yeah,
I care.
yeah. How important is self-care and what are your favorite self-care things that you're doing right now?
I think self-care is really important, obviously, so that you don't burn out. For me, the biggest self-care is my morning walks, like running. I love getting some form of like physical exercise during the day that's a little bit more sporty. So like whether I'm going to go play rugby with my friends or play pickleball, I try to squeeze that in the middle of everything else going on. I think
It's
exercise,
so important. It's huge.
it's the best
It's
natural
good for your,
dopamine.
I agree.
It also makes it easier to get dressed in the morning when you're proud of how much effort you put into your body, right?
Yeah, I agree. What have I not asked you that you'd like to share today?
Nothing, because you're Christina and you ask everything and you're the most thorough person I know. You're the best podcast I've been on. Oh, I shouldn't,
Oh, thank
but it's true.
no one will hear it. That's so nice. Nikita, I can't thank you enough for being here today and being so open, and just your energy is contagious, and you've become one of my closest friends in a very short time, and our age difference and everything. But I always feel that I can go to you for advice, like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this? Or I just love how you push me to greatness and excellence. And so I want to thank you for teaching me and the world that excellence is so important, and it's not success. It's striving to be better every day. So thank you. I'm Christina Flack, and I'm too busy. Thanks for being here.
I'm Christina Flack, and I'm too busy. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Thanks so much.